Thanks for tuning into the Disembodied Screams podcast. Those returning, thank you. Those new to this podcast, welcome. Now let's go ahead and get started with, it's an impromptu video for me. I was pumping gas this morning and I was like, it might be kind of fun to look at the horror elements in Cattle Decapitation's album covers and rank them based on the least horrific to the most horrific. And I'm going to go by the 8 studio albums. I'm not going to do like their EPs and stuff like that. So let's start with number 8. And if you're watching this on Spotify or YouTube, you can see them on the screen. If you're somewhere safe while you're listening to this, go ahead and pull up your phone, pull up your tablet, pull up your computer, wherever you are, and let's look at these album covers together. All right, and I'm going to start with number 8. It's on the screen now, and that is Karma, Bloody Karma. That is number 8 in their list. And the reason why I picked that one is it just doesn't have a lot of horror to it. This is probably their least horrific, maybe next to Death Atlas, as being ones that just don't pop with a lot of horror elements. I mean, sure, you got the knives and the cattle and some different colors and reds and yellows. And it looks a little bit horrific, but it's not really horror at all. I mean, this is a very more Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. My scale is Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is number 1. Freddy's Nightmares is number 6. So these covers fall somewhere in that scale most time. And this one is definitely leaning closer to the 1 than it is to the 6. So it's definitely their least horrific, in my mind at least, even though there are still some good horror elements within it. And number 7, I'm on Apple Music as I'm going through this, is on the screen. Let me look through here. I didn't even plan this out. I'm just doing it. I'm looking at the covers and putting up on the screen. And I hate to do this, but this is number 7 for me. Right there it is. Yep, that's right, folks. Those who can see it know now what I picked for number 7, and that's Death Atlas. It's definitely a very, not really a very horror-centered album. In fact, I've done the review for Death Atlas, and it didn't even crack the horrific top 5. There's just not a lot of horror within this cover. There's not a lot of horror within this album. But the album is probably my favorite by them. It is their magnum opus, some people say, and I agree with that. I mean, this is the album that a lot of bands want to make. And I agree with that. So this might be their best album, arguably. But it's definitely one of their least horror. So that's why I'm putting them at number 7. Even though the skeleton and the sickle and the burning, earth and the reds and the blacks and the hourglass below all kind of have a very horror vibe to it, a very apocalyptic vibe to them. It's just not very horror centered. So Death Atlas is number 7. So let's go here and go back and look at number 6. And I'm kind of flipping through the covers again. And number 6 is going to be, I might go with Terrasite for number 6. Again, maybe their second best album, their third. It's an amazing album. It's definitely continuing that trend of Death Atlas of being those bombastic, beautiful Cattle Decapitation albums. But horror, I mean, compared to the other ones, I mean, this is very horrific. Don't get me wrong. I mean, a human being turned into some kind of termite or roach or something like that is very horrific. I mean, in fact, you've got a husk of a body laying on the ground where this thing just came out of. And it's very horror in a lot of ways. But at the same time, when you put it against their other ones, I would put it in number 6. I just don't think this one pops with as much horror as the ones coming up in the top 5. I love Terrasite too. What's the song? Bring Back the Plague and Solastalgia are just, I mention those a lot, but those are the 2 songs that really put me onto Cattle, and they're on this album and in Death Atlas. So anyways, let's move on to number 5 before I get off my thought train. And let's see, number 5, I'm going to have to put let's go with the Anthropocene, the Anthropocene one. I can't see it on the thing. The Anthropocene Extinction, I think is what it is, right? But it's on the screen. The problem is Apple Music does not spell out the whole thing. Let's see over here. It's called I'm going to Wikipedia right quick. The Anthropocene Extinction. I'm not as versed in cattle decapitation as I want to be just yet, so I'm still struggling with some of this stuff. So I apologize for that. But anyways, the Anthropocene Extinction is number 5 on this list. And again, I mean, it's a very horror apocalyptic vibe. You've got rotten corpses on there. You got greens. You got yellows. You've got a darkened world. You've got some kind of pipe in the background spewing who God knows what out of it. So it's very horror centered, but not as much as the top 4, I don't think. But number 5, I think, is the Anthropocene Extinction. Again, it's on the screen. You can see it there. Let's move on to number 4 in this list. I'm hoping I'm keeping up with this stuff. Number 4, I am going to go with Monolith of Inhumanity. I mean, that's another... The colors alone in this one really scream horror. You got yellows and blacks, that beautiful Cattle Decapitation splat. I love the splat of all their stuff on all their albums. They all look amazing. You got some kind of half man, half monkey kind of in and out. It looks like he's starting to morph into something else on the cover with reds, eating on something that looks kind of gross. Looks like he's coming apart at the same time. There's all this stuff littered all over the ground. There's monkeys in the background. It's just a lot of craziness going on. But this is a very horrific looking scene, very horrific looking album cover. So Monolith of Inhumanity is number 4 on this list. And it could easily be in the top 3 as well. But I really think this is a 4 in my mind, the horror. You agree, you disagree, of course. You can drop your list below in the comments below. Let's go on to the top 3, and I'm going to start off the top 3 with probably my second favorite album cover of Cattle Decapitation, which is, yep, you see it on the screen now, The Harvest Floor, which I'm putting at number 3. I absolutely love this cover. This is one of my favorite covers by them. It's up there with Humanure as being one of my favorite covers by them. You've got these blues and these whites and this kind of like barn-like structure in the distance. You've got these people in this garb, this military garb, and they're basically running these people through a cattle chute into this building where obviously bad things are happening because there's like this red inside this building too. Cannot wait to get into this album. The Harvest Floor is one of my favorites by them too. And I'm putting it number 3 on this list of the most horror Cattle Decapitation. Look for that one coming up very soon. And I've got Humanure and The Harvest Floor. The scripts are done. I'm going to record those pretty soon. Death Atlas is coming up pretty soon as well. I think it's March or early April for Death Atlas. It's around that range. So it's coming up. Just hang in there. I'm getting more Cattle Decapitation coming up very soon. All right, let's move on to the top 2. And I have got to put probably my least favorite Cattle Decapitation album at number 2, and that's To Serve Man. This is a horrific album cover. I don't remember. I did this review one time, and then I kind of deleted it because I didn't like it. I can't remember what I gave this album cover. I think I gave it a 5.5. I might have given it a 6. I can't remember. Give my scale. 1's Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. 6 is Freddy's Nightmares. And this is horrific. This is the kind of album cover I'm afraid to put on YouTube. I am. I sometimes want to start a Patreon page just to put these horrific albums on. Because you've got a dude just pulling open his insides and letting his guts fall onto a platter right on the main cover. In fact, one of his left arm is just completely peeled of flesh. He's got a zombified look to him as well. Looks like he's been, what's the word I'm looking for? Autopsied. He's got like autopsy scars all over him and a plate, and there's feet hanging in the background, and there's greens and blacks and that great splat again. So yeah, this is a very horrific album cover. Number 2 for me on this list. And with that said, that should be number 1 coming up next. And if you guys have been following along, it's obviously, it's probably my favorite album cover by Cattle Decapitation. Humanure. It's on the screen, and looking forward to diving into this one very soon. In fact, I think after I finish this little ranking video, I'm going to dive into this one next and go ahead and talk about this album cover. No spoilers about what I'm rating this stuff, but this is a grotesque album cover, folks. This is another one of those I'm like Cannibal Corpse has a few. I'm like, do I put that on YouTube? How do I put that on YouTube? But this is another one, man. You've got this cow defecating just human remains, basically, and there's faces, and there's hands, and there's all kinds of god-awful stuff in this defecated pile underneath this cow. And there's yellows and there's blacks, and it just, even the cow looks a little demonic. It's very apocalyptic, very horror-centered. So that's my number one on this list, Cattle Decapitation's Humanure. And that will close out this ranking video. If you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, you got to see everything. If you didn't, I hope you went back and found a way to watch, to look at these album covers while I'm talking about them on the podcast. This is kind of a podcast-centered episode, kind of not, but at the same time, I think it'll work. All right, let me drop anchor here, close out this episode. If you've got a ranking of all 8 Cattle Decapitation album covers, the horror of them, drop them below in the comments below. Email me songlines@gmail.com. And that'll be it. Wherever you are, wherever you listen to this, wherever you're watching this, just find a way to give this podcast some love and let that algorithm on that system you're listening to this on know that this dude is doing some really, really good stuff. Take care, be good, and go listen to some Cattle Decapitation today. And not only listen to it, let the neighbors listen to it as well, because it needs to be played extremely, extremely loud. Take care.